Temporarily from the Libertarian National Convention in New Orleans, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Saturday, June 30th, 2018. Silver is trading at $16.12 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,253 per ounce. Zencash is trading at $18, and the average price of Bitcoin is $6,401. Antiwar.com reports earlier this week the State Department revealed that they are ordering allies worldwide to stop buying oil from Iran. This is part of an effort to drive Iranian oil exports to zero and is centered on the U.S. withdrawing from the P5+1 nuclear deal. This is having a substantial impact on the regional and global economy. Saudi Arabia looks to be the most immediate beneficiary, with the country expecting record oil production in the next month to meet rising demand. The main purchasers of Iran's oil exports are India and China, and Indian refiners have suggested that they will be obeying the U.S. demands. China has not addressed the U.S. demands and probably won't accept them since they remain a party to the nuclear deal. Iran is trying to secure continued exports abroad, particularly pushing the EU to agree to buy oil as part of saving the nuclear deal from the U.S. Whether this is successful remains to be seen, but the U.S. seems determined to scare away Iran's customers, and oil prices have been rising on the expectation this will continue.
Zencash is the world's first private, distributed, and reliable platform for communications, transactions, and publishing. Zencash has the ability to use both transparent and shielded transactions, with shielded transactions using zero-knowledge proofs. Zencash features global governance with inclusive decision-making, reliable funding for continuous improvements, and documentation and wallets in many languages that are available for Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices. Learn more at zencash.com. That's zencash.com.
UPI reports the names of the Capital Gazette journalists killed Thursday in Annapolis, Maryland, likely will be placed on the Newseum's Journalist Memorial Wall next year, according to the head of the Freedom Forum Institute. Gene Policinski, who is also the chief operating officer of the Newseum Institute, said, "I would think that the nature of this, the tragedy, the great number of it, will mean that their names will unfortunately be on this wall in 2019. Jared Ramos is accused of breaking into the Gazette's offices Thursday afternoon and shooting to death four journalists and one cell staff member before being arrested. He had threatened the newspaper in 2013 in the midst of a lawsuit he filed, saying reporters defamed him by reporting that he was convicted of harassing a former high school classmate online. The lawsuit was later dismissed. In the aftermath of the attack, law enforcement stepped up security at major newspaper organizations around the country. Adopting precautionary measures is important, but the best measures won't be enough until the ongoing rhetoric against the news media ends, according to Frank Smith, head of the Global Journalist Security, a firm that trains journalists in risk mitigation and safety measures. President Trump's criticisms of the media are feeding the anger at the root of verbal and physical attacks on journalists, according to Smith. He said Capital Gazette is the worst attack on journalists and press freedom in the history of the United States. Policinski said that Americans have less trust in journalists today, not just because of the frankly ridiculous political debate where journalists are enemies of the people, but because there are fewer local journalists covering news that matters to people's lives. Trump has called journalists enemies of the people and labeled stories as fake news regardless of their veracity. During his presidential campaign, he often urged crowds to turn on the reporters covering him, including offering to pay legal bills if anyone was arrested for assaulting a reporter. While journalists covering international conflicts often face risk, it's rare that those working in the United States are targeted. Over the past 26 years, the Committee to Protect Journalists recorded 7 other deaths in the country, a relatively small number compared to the 1,306 journalists killed around the world during the same period. The most striking thing is that the journalists at the Capital Gazette were sitting at a desk of the local newspaper, not in the midst of a war zone or even violent domestic riot. 2 days before the Annapolis shooting, Milo Yiannopoulos, former senior editor at Breitbart, told a reporter, "I can't wait for vigilante squads to start gunning down journalists on sight."
For over 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals. Gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. They don't feed the banks. They're Bitcoin preferred and have removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.